When's the last time that you reviewed your total portfolio and looked at every holding? As a shareholder, are you sure the companies you own are still meeting your investing metrics? Well, today, I'm going to take you guys along with me while I review 6 of my current holdings to determine who's going to get to make the cut. Because I just did my deep dive and actually reached out for help from all of you. I love you guys, by the way. I got some really solid suggestions that we're going to roll through today, and ultimately, I'll share the decisions I've made for my portfolio and how that affects my overall dividend income each year. Because that's what it's all about, increasing the passive income so we can get our time back. So let's put each of these companies under the microscope and look at some key metrics. But in order to do that, I wanted to share some of the suggestions that I received from all of you. Duke, Benjamin, and Tortoise all identified the need to look more closely at my holdings of AT&T and Verizon, the potential to sell my shares of Philip Morris and reinvest them into Altria Group, and to just pick an ETF already. Fractal Clues identified my need to break up with Algonquin, and my friend Chantel agreed, but also zeroed in on Care Trust REIT, and I totally agree with both of you. It's kind of time to plan my exit. Glenn's a huge fan of Broadcom, and I totally agree. And Doug, he apparently appreciates when I make an out of myself and stays for the bloopers at the end. There are 3 primary comparisons that I'd like to share with you all, and we'll start with AT&T versus Verizon. And we're going to look at 7 key metrics: yield, payout ratio, years of increases, the 5-year dividend growth rate, the 10-year total return, the risk, or beta, and the net margin. And we're going to start with yield, and you can see here that Verizon wins the point with 6.76%. AT&T actually has the lower payout ratio at 41.03%. Years of increases definitely go to Verizon because if you remember, AT&T actually made a cut of 46% in their dividend last May. So Verizon's going to get the point here with 18 years of increases. And the same is true for the 5-year dividend growth rate. Because of that cut, Verizon has the upper hand here at 2.04%. In terms of total return, AT&T actually gets the point at 26.10% in the last 10 years. As far as risk goes, that one goes to Verizon with 0.34, and overall, the net margin is also going to go to Verizon. But stay with me to find out who makes the cut in the long run. For the next comparison, we have Philip Morris and Altria Group, and the overall consensus here was to sell my shares of Philip Morris, and I only have 14, and purchase more shares of Altria Group instead. So let's run it down. Now, early on, you can see the dividend yield is going to go to Altria Group with 8.18%. The payout ratio actually goes to Altria Group again at 76.03%, which is still a little bit high for my liking. In terms of years of dividend increases, Altria Group also takes the cake with 53 years of increases compared to Philip Morris's 14 years of dividend increases. When we look at the 5-year dividend growth rate, we can see that Altria Group doubles that of Philip Morris at 7.18%. 10-year total return, similar story with Altria Group almost doubling that of Philip Morris. In terms of overall risk, that one also goes to Altria Group. Net margin, Philip Morris squeaked out a point with a 28.49% net margin, narrowly beating that of Altria Group. Next, let's look at Home Depot versus Lowe's. Depot does take the win right now with 2.79%. Payout ratio, Lowe's takes the win with 28.77%, which is really low. Years of increases also goes to Lowe's with 59 years of increases compared to Home Depot's 13. 5-year dividend growth rate for both companies is actually really impressive. 16.06% at the Home Depot and 20.11% at Lowe's, so the point goes to Lowe's. In terms of 10-year total return, again, these companies are both putting up phenomenal returns, very impressive. Home Depot with 412.52% in the last 10 years, with Lowe's at a 563.02% total return, beating Home Depot by over 150%. Risk is a little bit lower at Home Depot with a beta of 0.92 compared to Lowe's. Overall, the net margin, very, very close, but we still have to give it to Home Depot with 10.87%. So what am I going to do? Well, the next step for me was to look at how these changes might affect my overall dividend income each year. So let's break that down too. If I sell my 150 shares of AT&T and reinvest in Verizon, my annual net income from dividends will be up by $24.69. And if I sell my 14 shares of Philip Morris and reinvest in Altria Group, that'll be another win, adding $42.29 to my annual dividend income. Now, I left Home Depot and Lowe's off the list because I'm not really ready to part with either one. And after nerding out a little bit more and calculating the numbers, I found that if I break up with Algonquin, CareTrust REIT, HDV, and the Fidelity Blue Chip Growth Fund and move all of that equity into SCHD, that's going to also yield an increase for me in dividends each year by $76.28. So when all is said and done, I'll actually increase my dividend income by $143.26. But before I commit myself to buying more shares of Verizon or even keeping it, I think it's prudent to take a look at Kevin's suggestion of using SCHD as the benchmark. And I kind of love this, you guys. So if we pop on over to Seeking Alpha to see what the 10-year total return looks like for all the winners on my list, you can see that Lowe's is the clear winner with 563.02% in total return in the last 10 years, followed by SCHD with a total return of 206.82%, then the S&P 500 at 161.47%, followed by Altria Group at 127.42%, and finally Verizon at 10.06%. I'm not really feeling it, you guys. So with that, I've decided to sell not only AT&T, but Verizon as well as an individual holding and just reinvest that equity into SCHD. Because when we look at the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, or SCHD, and we scroll down to the 12th holding on the list, what you guys will see is that Verizon makes up just under 4% of SCHD. So I'll still have it in my portfolio, just in a much better package overall. Now that I've made my decisions, I got some buy and sell orders to place, you guys. I'm pretty excited to build a stronger portfolio, and I really wanted to say thank you. I appreciate all of you and this community for helping me to do it. And since the SCHD Love Fest continues, perhaps you're curious as to the other great companies that make up its 104 holdings. And if so, you can take a peek at this video next. I need like a soundproof room. Here comes the mower again. I have no more time. It's not soundproof. What happens to Murgatroyd? Who is Murgatroyd? Does anyone know who Murgatroyd is? Why do I do that? The mower's coming back. And since dang it, everyone says the worst thing for your videos is poor sound quality. I have poor sound quality, you guys.